How about some more notes, some things you should pay attention to this week? The top 30 in the FedEx Cup standings. The format, 72-hole stroke play event. Again, starting strokes gone. Winner named FedEx Cup champ also receives $10 million. And of course, Scottie is the defending champion. For more on this week's event, we say good afternoon to Todd Lewis. Great to see you, T. Lou. I understand you have some news regarding the world number one, Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, Scottie Scheffler, after winning the BMW Championship, flew here to Atlanta, opting not to go home to Dallas before coming here for the Tour Championship. Rested on Monday. Today, he started his on-course prep for the Tour Championship. And walking the fairways with him once again, his friend and caddy, Ted Scott. Now, the last time we saw Scott on the golf course, it was the third round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. After that round, he was informed about a family emergency at home in Louisiana. He went back home to Louisiana to attend to that. He did not caddy for the final round. And at the BMW Championship, Ted's friend, Michael Cromie, filled in for him. And, of course, Scottie went on to win. But Ted is back here this week, and it's a great opportunity for him to be around not only his friend Scottie Scheffler, but also the entire Scheffler team. Offers him some normalcy to kind of forget about what's happening with him in Louisiana. And it also gives comfort to Scottie Scheffler as well. I did have a chance to talk to Ted. He said he appreciates all the love that he has gotten over the last few weeks, and he hopes that those who know the situation continue to pray for him and his family.
And T. Lou, it's a big week on the PGA Tour with the Tour Championship, now a winner-take-all event for the FedEx Cup.
Yeah.
And talking to players on Tuesday, what are they saying about this week's format?
Well, they have optimism compared to maybe years past when you got here and you're in the 20 through 30 category. You really felt like you didn't have a shot to win, but it's different now for everybody in the field. I mean, since the FedEx Cup started back in 2007, we've had a lot of iterations, but this year, no staggered start. Steve Sands is not coming back with his whiteboard. Instead, everybody in the field has a chance, and just like they did at the very first tournament of the season on Maui, here in the final event of the season, the player who finishes the lowest after 72 holes will hold a trophy on Sunday.
It's certainly nice Scottie Scheffler not starting 10 shots ahead of me. It's hard enough to beat him straight up. Yeah, I think more guys feel like they probably have a chance to win, obviously. Yeah, I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
What does the FedEx Cup mean to you as a tour member?
Yeah, I mean, it's what we ultimately want to win. It's a way to cap off a great season, and if you make it to this event, you obviously have done that. So it would be kind of icing on the cake. And if you look at the history of the guys who won this event and have played well here, it certainly means a lot in our sport, and it will continue to for a long time.
I think everyone's excited at the opportunity. Obviously, there's always that huge pot of gold at the end of it, and obviously there's a chance for someone to lift that iconic FedEx Cup trophy. And Scottie's tough to beat, it seems, obviously week in, week out, let alone with a 10 or a 2 or a 4 or a 6 shot lead, whatever you might have to give him this week. So from that point of view, yeah, I think prefer my chances starting flat than obviously giving away shots. So it's a nice opportunity to be in. Although I ended up finishing 4th on the list, so I'd have had a nice little advantage myself. So it depends. Everyone's going to be in a slightly different mindset of it, but we've had a different structure this year. Obviously, everyone's been compensated nicely for playing good golf at the right time, and I feel like this is about, in this sense, it's like FedEx Cup Tour Championship merged into one great tournament to finish the year.
It's a different feel. You feel like you're chasing the whole week, which can be a good mentality, but also you might take some risks that you normally wouldn't. So everyone's starting at zero. I feel like it's you can almost ease your way into the golf tournament a little differently than previous when I started well back.
Right, so you take some risks. What do you mean?
Well, maybe going at pins, maybe shouldn't have the first day, or feeling like you need to shoot 500 or 600 just to get back into the tournament. Where everyone again starting at scratch. This golf course 300-400 is a great score. If you do that kind of every day and stay patient, again, it's easier to do that I think now since we're all starting at zero.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice not to have to come and give Scottie Scheffler shots. Although it feels like we've been doing that of recent weeks. But yeah, no, it is obviously like the position I'm in coming in here this year. I was in a better position last year and I came in the top 10, but like this year I'm coming in at like 24th. I would have had to give a lot of shots, and obviously it will be a very different week. But you're kind of coming here, everyone's starting on par, and there's only a 30-man field, so you do feel like you're coming here with a chance to do well. Obviously, look, you look at the golf Scottie's playing, and he's obviously a hot favourite this week. So if you can get somewhere close to him with a few holes to go on Sunday, you can have some sort of a chance.
Well, as you can tell by hearing those players' voices there, they're a little optimistic that they have a shot, not giving Scottie an advantage, but they know that he is a dominant player and he is going to be a figure here this week. And yes, all the players, all 30 here in the field, are going to start even par at the same score. Compared to years past, it has not been the case. But will that change in 2026? That is the question, and new CEO for the PGA Tour, Brian Rowlett, will probably address those questions tomorrow when he meets with the media here at East Lake. Guys?
No question about it. T. Lee reporting from Atlanta. Much more from Todd in just a little bit. And how about the end of the season? We've heard some optimism from those players, big-time players that Todd was interviewing. Do you like the way the regular season ends and the playoffs kind of flow from that? Tension at Wyndham, tension in Memphis, etc.
I will say, as a general rule of thumb, if you're still asking players about what the meaning of a FedEx Cup title is in year 19 of the FedEx Cup playoffs, that means that it's probably not right. And to me, the inherent issue with the FedEx Cup playoffs is that they're trying to shoehorn two things into one.
You're
trying to crown a season-long champion, and you're also trying to have a really fun, compelling season finale. That's really difficult to do. So I would split them up. I think the answer to the PGA Tour's issue here with what to do with the postseason and what to do with the players is to split them up. Crown the FedEx Cup champion after the conclusion of the Wyndham Championship, which is right now the regular season finale.
Wait, you say it again now? Crown the FedEx Cup champion?
Crown the season-long champion after the Wyndham Championship. So you would have Scottie Scheffler.
Is that the
as
FedEx
Cup champion?
That's the FedEx Cup
Then you're
champion.
determining the top 70 just based on the FedEx Cup standings for the postseason. You're determining the top 50 for the signature event status for 2026. You're determining the top 30 for the major exemptions into 2026, and as well as a 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour. At that point, then you can wipe the points clean and do something entirely different for the postseason.
What do you call the winner of the playoffs then?
The playoff winner, the FedEx Cup playoff winner. Have it different than the FedEx Cup overall champion.
Who gets that beautiful trophy?
That would be Scottie Scheffler, because he is the season-long FedEx Cup champion. In the postseason, if the points are wiped clean, then all of a sudden you're getting into a situation where instead of the volatility with the points and having quadruple points for a winner, just do it strictly on the leaderboard.
So you don't like the volatility of red, bad, green, good, projected, and the thing that's flipping on Tommy Roy's graphics? You don't like that after Michael Kim makes or misses a putt?
First of all, I'm red-green colorblind, so no, I don't like it. But I also think it's very confusing for fans. Because why would, say, a Michael Kim bogey on 17 and a Victor Hovland birdie on 18? Why are two disparate things somehow coalescing into a FedEx Cup points race? If you just have it strictly based on leaderboard position,
and top,
so
50,
top 50,
top 30, okay, it's cleaner,
30,
cleaner.
It's clean. And if you're completely separating this from the regular season, then you can get a little weird. You can get a little wacky in the Tour Championship. You can have what I would call sort of a stroke play qualifier. Have 54 holes of stroke play qualifying, getting into a match play bracket. Right now, the issue that PGA Tour players have is they do not want match play, which I think we all agree is the most fun format to watch. They don't want to have it because you play stroke play all season long, and all of a sudden, when the big title's up for grabs, you have match play. That doesn't work. That doesn't make any sense. But if it's completely separate and it's no longer tied to a season-long race, all of a sudden that can be a really fun ending to the playoff season. And so I think, Dame, when you look at sort of those last 6 events of the PGA Tour season and why this system could potentially work, just look at this. Those are the last 3 events of the regular season. All of a sudden, if you're having a cutoff for the top 70 for the postseason, top 50 for signature event status for the following year, top 30 for those exemptions, all of a sudden there's a trickle-up effect. Now the 3M's stronger. Now the Rocket's stronger. Now the Wyndham's stronger. All of those players who are, sort of chasing that top 30, they are going to play those tournaments to make sure they are locking in their status for the following season. At that point, wipe it clean for the postseason, and you can have something that's easy to follow for the fans, and you can also potentially have a really fun, compelling format without trying to shoehorn it into 2 separate things into one.
You've given this deep thought. I'm not going to have a knee-jerk reaction. No, I appreciate it, but I think part of the issue, and maybe your format addresses that, is can you compel the players to play? Rory McIlroy had every right if he wanted to skip Memphis, which he did. We had Scottie and Sepp struck a nice, twosome out there. It would have been Scottie and Rory. We have that this week. But in the playoffs, you got to play. The first four letters of playoffs are so you're out.
Yes,
in your world, you're out.
Of course. This would be mandatory participation. Otherwise, you're not going to be playing in the postseason. You have to show up and play. And people say, well, what happens if Rory McIlroy ties for 67th in the FedEx St. Jude Championship, the first playoff event?
Right.
And he would then be cut. That happens. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same rationale that folks have been using not to have a cut in the signature event series. Well, you got to have the stars around for all 4 days. You look at the top players, they very rarely finish in that position where they'd be outside the top 30 or outside the top 50. Relying on sort of a statistical anomaly to change the format doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I'd like to see a few more cuts. I just like it. I'm old school. I like the Friday tension, but I also like the compelling nature of having to compel the players in the playoffs, unless you want to say top 4, top 10, a bye week maybe. Mahomes and Josh Allen, they get a bye. Lamar Jackson, don't want to forget about Lamar in Owings Mills, Maryland. Maybe he gets a bye. Maybe Scottie and Rory, maybe they can work that into the format. So, if you do this, if you win this many tournaments, you finish this high in the FedEx Cup standings, you get a bye week. Perhaps. Would you
but then we're having the conversation where the star players aren't playing in the PGA Tour's big postseason.
But do you think they're going to play 6 in a row? They're going to play 3M? They're going to play all the way through?
The top players wouldn't. The top 10 wouldn't. But I think you're going to find, if you go to this sort of format, anyone between, let's say, 20 and 100 in the FedEx Cup standings is going to make sure they're adding at least one of those tournaments to bolster their chances and finish in a better position. Certainly a lot of food for thought.
The folks in Ponte Vedra Beach listening to what you have to say, most of them in Atlanta this week.
I'm sure Rex and I are going to have plenty more to say on the podcast. We record that on Wednesday. And just as a reminder of how you can watch the season-ending Tour Championship, a 1 p.m. start on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday on Golf Channel. And note that earlier start on Sunday, noon Eastern.